right, governance is up. Education, you heard it from economic development. You heard of education, now governance is up. See what they're going to say, what they're going to do.
We're going to change the world, man.
They're going to change the world.
Oh, that's great, thanks. I'll just hold it. I'll figure it out. Hi, folks. My name is Mike Kuziak. I'm from Castro Valley, and it's really refreshing to see a lot of neighbors, friends, staff from our state government, Senator Ellen Corbett's office, Bill Quirk's office. There's some representation here. We really appreciate that you all come out today to hear about the EALI process and governance in general. I'm really, in my everyday life, I'm a policy wonk. So one of the challenges I think for a lot of us in this group has been is to sort of tone down a lot of the very policy wonky things we like to talk about in governance. So I'm going to try to do that today, and I'm going to start out first to say, why are we here? Why is this governance group here? As the economic group brought up, government can do a lot to make our communities livable. They can implement a lot of these ideas that we're talking about today. However, knowing how to navigate government, our local government, ensuring robust engagement, and effecting accountability to the community that our government is meant to serve can be really difficult in urbanized, unincorporated communities. It can be very difficult. We deserve a government that is accountable to us. We deserve local governments that is accountable to our local communities. I'm going to talk a little slower. We deserve to have a greater voice. And I just like to point out, the last time I tried singing, that was a disaster. That was when I was an 8-year-old, and so I promise I will just stick to my talking voice, not to my singing voice. But we deserve to have a greater voice in decisions that affect us directly. We deserve to see projects and services that flow from our tax dollars planned and executed in a way that makes sense to us and takes our community needs into account. So today, all of you out there, have an opportunity to use your vote to start making fundamental changes in how our communities are governed. You have that power. And we, all of us here, have an opportunity to send a message to Supervisors Nate Miley, Wilma Chan, our representatives in Sacramento, and the rest of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors that how the unincorporated communities are governed is important to the vitality, the livability of our communities. So first I wanted to, after talking about why we're here, I want to tell you who we are. I think that presentation on our community profile will give really good, some great nuances to what we are as a community. I'd be happy to speak louder. Let me hold the mic. Perfect. Oh, Bob Wiskowski is also represented. Thank you. So who are we? Well, this is one representation of who we are. It's a map of the Eden area. You've seen pictures of it. When I saw this, I grew up in a lot of places. One place I lived was on the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia. And I saw this and I was like, it kind of looks like a crab, right? We did a lot of crabbing on the Chesapeake Bay. But this is the Eden area. We are 5 communities. We're Ashland, we're Castro Valley, we're Trailland, Fairview, and San Lorenzo. I'll leave that there. So unlike Hayward or San Leandro, we are not incorporated. That's a really fancy way of saying we're not independent cities or laws, or towns, sorry. We are about 130,000 people, about 9% of Alameda County's 1.5 million residents. And as Supervisor Miley noted earlier, if we were one city, we would be the 4th largest in Alameda County. We do not control our local government. We do have it. We get it directly from the Board of Supervisors. And we rely on those 5 county supervisors, none of whom live in our communities, to establish our municipal laws and the budgets that fund government services like planning and community infrastructure, such as roads and streetlights. The sheriff provides our police services, but there is no formal civilian oversight of how those police services are provided in our communities. That's a real big difference compared to incorporated communities. Castro Valley we have an example in Castro Valley of how we get to advise the Board of Supervisors through something called a Municipal Advisory Council. But we don't even get to select the membership of that council, and its decisions are not binding on the Board of Supervisors or the other entities like the Board of Zoning Adjustments or the Planning Commission that get recommendations from that MAC. The Board of Supervisors, in effect, can ignore this advice. It's true that the county does have general and specific plans that have been enacted with broad consultations within our communities. But as we discovered throughout the EALI process, there were plenty of examples of sometimes these goals and plans are not implemented as they were intended. We really believe that now is the time to improve the conditions of our governance in all of our communities. So, what can we do to improve this? And I think the way we can improve it is taking a look at our goals and how can we enhance our voice? How can it be more than advisory? And how can we get more of our neighbors engaged in local governance? So I think you'll find some viable solutions on this ballot, and maybe y'all can take out your ballot and follow along with me. And let's review our goals. If you look in the back side of the ballot, division and group governance, you will see that they are prioritized 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are prioritized in the way that division and group, which we did some voting there, kind of like a mini charrette, and these are ordered in the popularity of the division and group. I'll just tell you right now, 1 and 2 were pretty close, and 3 and 4 were relatively sort of the bottom ones. And I would also point out that number 2, enhanced local self-governance, is probably the goal that brought most people to those meetings in the first place. That's what inspired a lot of us to be there. So Keith Barrows, my colleague from San Lorenzo, we can work across different communities here, folks. And we have a lot of great support from Keith, Bev, Howard Beckman, and Jewel Spalding from Fairview. He gave a really great simplification of the different goals. So goal number 1, makes land use and permits conducive to our community's wants. I'm going to go through these quick summaries of them, and then I'll go into each goal. And that's goal number 1, and also it's referred to number 12 on your front. Goal number 2 is talking about getting local control of our government, and that's number 13 on the front. Goal number 3, the simplification of it is keep our tax money in our communities, and that is 14 on the front. And number 4, goal number 4, is make our government more transparent. And that is 15 on the front of your ballot. As I said, goal 1 and 2 really were the ones that engaged folks. What was really interesting about goal number 1, and I'll start talking more in detail of each goal. Goal number 1 talks about increasing accountability to the community of the land use planning and permitting process. There was a lot of consensus in the room, in all of our groups, that these are some really savvy reforms of how things can work in county agency structure. There are examples here, and as I've been pointing out, some of these examples will change through the implementation phase. But one of the ideas that was put forth here was transferring the Public Work Agency's building department and land-use development component into the community development agency. This was like a no-brainer among the participants there. There was a belief that we need to have different parts of county bureaucracy in the same room talking to each other so that there's implementation of what residents want. We also, here, an example would be having the county formally including, and there's no formal way of doing this from what I understand, formally including us, the unincorporated communities, in its annual budget call, making sure that there's some way to formally come to us for feedback about what the priorities are going to be. You'll see at our station today, we do have a copy of the section of the unincorporated service section of the budget. Kind of wonky, but you can kind of see what does the county think is important for our community, and that's where the priorities are set and how budget funds are spent. So goal number 2 is enhanced local self-governance. This is about local control. There are a lot of ideas here, a lot of variations, and this will take a lot of work in the implementation phase. And some of the actual solutions may not even exist. It's going to take a lot of creative thinking and people really working together to come up with some ideas. But there were a lot of variations here. It was about maybe expanding Castro Valley's Municipal Advisory Committee Council to an Eden area MAC. The issue that brought me to this initially was to get that MAC elected. It could be that. It could have more planning powers, something called a Board of Zoning Adjustments. Thank you, government, for giving us wonderful terms like that no one really understands what they do. But it's a type of planning function that we got control of in the unincorporated communities through the West County BZA a few years ago. There really was no winning local self-government enhancement in these examples. The government groups simply could not come to a consensus on this. And I really think it's okay, looking back at the process. It's okay. There's a lot of different issues there. But as in the implementation phase, I think we'll develop this more and get more feedback from the communities. The last two goals, 3 and 4, I don't want to underestimate them, but they really could have some really positive impacts for us. Goal number 3 talks about revising the annual budget format. This would make changes in the accounting system to see how expenditures are made in our communities. And goal number 4, I think, doesn't necessarily need EALI for implementation. This is just common sense, good governance. Give us web resources. Tell us how a meeting is convened, where it's convened. Do webinars. Put your meetings online. Help us engage, because a lot of us might have non-traditional work hours. We might not be able to be at every meeting. We might have a 5 and a 3-year-old at home who are taking a lot of your time when you're trying to get to an EALI meeting. So let me just quickly close by saying, our local government, Alameda County, is the mechanism empowered to implement all of the proposed goals and projects here. All of them. Whether it's agriculture, public safety, economic development. And in order for our local government to reflect our community priorities, it needs to be able to hear us and be accountable to us. This is why governance is important. I know it's really not as tangible as so many of the other ideas here today. And it's really, when you're passionate about this, trying to get everyone else passionate about it can be really tough. But let me just tell you, this is the gateway to our voice, how we get things done in our communities. So I do hope you have a clearer sense as to why the residents of our Eden area should use this opportunity of EALI to make some fundamental changes in how we are governed. And I encourage you to take some time to speak with all of us today. We'll be available over in the fireside room, I believe it's called, to learn more about these ideas. And we want to engage you, we want to hear your ideas, and we want to see you in the implementation phase. And we want to make this a more livable community. And with that, I want to say thank you, and please vote.
All right, so that's governance. Next one is public safety and realignment.